The big story this Friday afternoon continues to be the war in Ukraine. The war now in its fourth week as Russia continues its attacks in that country. Another big global story today, a rise in COVID cases in both Europe and China.
Face the Nation's Margaret Brennan joining us now live from Washington, D.C. Margaret, great to see you. Let's begin, if we may, please, with the pandemic. The CDC confirms an uptick in the virus found in wastewater. Right now, cases in Europe are on the rise. Former FDA Commissioner Dr. Scott Gottlieb will be on your show on Sunday. What do we know about the potential for another wave of cases?
Well, we know that Dr. Fauci, for example, is already predicting that infections will go up. But the question of whether it's a wave like we just were hit with in this last round of Omicron is what's really needed in terms of perspective. You know, how big of a surge of infection should we be expecting? One of the things that is different now than just where we were even a few weeks and months ago is that many health restrictions have been lifted. No state has mask requirements any longer. A lot of those were pulled back. So if you are now facing a new variant that is highly transmissible with little health protocols in place, how do you manage your risk? We'll talk about that with Dr. Gottlieb. We also want to remember that large parts of the population are unprotected, including children under 5. So how do you function right now? What do you need to know? Those are the questions we'll put to Dr. Gottlieb.
And Margaret, let's talk Ukraine right now. President Joe Biden spoke with China's president for a few hours today. Earlier, the U.S. warned China that it would impose sanctions if it lent any kind of support to Russia for the war or to get help around U.S. sanctions that have crippled Russia's economy. What do top officials think of the likelihood that China would aid Russia?
Well, U.S. officials have been concerned that there is a possibility Beijing could go along with these requests for help from Russia, and that includes a request for cash, according to my sources, along with a request for military equipment. But the final decision had not been made as of today, which is why President Biden spoke by phone with President Xi Jinping of China to try to persuade him that it's not in his interest to throw a lifeline to Vladimir Putin, who is having a problem getting a hold of cash, for example, due to these sanctions. So this is really a highly consequential call between two of the most powerful men in the world, and it's not quite clear what was decided on this phone call that could potentially turn the tide of this conflict.
Margaret Brennan, live for us in Washington, D.C. Margaret, thank you so much for your time this afternoon. And of course, we'll be watching, as we do every weekend, Face the Nation on Sundays right here at 9:30 on Channel 6.